Welcome to the Live Recess podcast,
where we journey together toward unlocking a more compassionate experience with ourselves, others, and the universe.
Through meaningful interactions, we aim to detach from our thoughts and feelings in order to spark light.
Whether you're seeking a moment of peace,
a new perspective,
or a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you,
this is your sign to take a recess.
Hey everybody, welcome to Recess. This is a very special episode. I am here with my amazing co-host, Bailey, and we are straight
present.
She's here, and we're coming at you from the Jeep. Does your Jeep have a name, Bailey?
Her name is Cleo the Compass.
Ooh, I like it. Cleo. Do you remember, or are you too young to remember Cleo the Psychic? It was like a call, like
too
a
young.
dial on TV.
Nope.
There were like late night commercials for Cleo.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You just call and like ask a question?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I was too young to do it.
Good for Cleo. Good for her.
So yeah, your car's psychic.
Yeah, I love that. We're in a channel.
That's what I got out of this conversation.
Context.
We're gonna bring you a little bit of a look into your future. If you choose to join us, that was...
Oh, I love that spin. Killed it.
We are in the car because we're on our way back from a site visit to our venue for the Recess Retreat in September.
Yeah, so I've actually been at this venue before and done another retreat from our friends over at Adult Wilderness Camp. And the camp is called Camp Horsing Around. It's a goofy name.
Yeah.
But the actual facility is gorgeous. They have these beautiful stone fireplaces that overlook like this dewy field, rolling hills, this pond with a fountain. I mean, Abby, what did you think?
It was freaking beautiful. Today, for context, is not a beautiful day here in the bluegrass. It is gray, dingy on the highway. You don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. We got out there and it's like the fog was lifting off of the ponds, and you could see the mountains and the
birds
hills.
Chirping.
Genuinely.
Deer. So many deer.
Oh my gosh.
Galloping.
Chilling. Yeah, it was amazing. I am not going to lie to you. I was a little nervous because I'm like, okay, campgrounds, is it a little too campy? Like, is it going to be peaceful? Is it going to be the place that we want for a mindfulness wellness retreat? Or is this going to be like little kid camp? You all, it's stunning. It's beautiful. It couldn't be better.
And
I cannot wait.
Such a great conversation. One of our biggest concerns too was about the food, because they're used to just having like a large buffet style menu for like kiddos and, just normal kids camp stuff. And I was, super frank. I was like, this is a more health oriented sort of retreat. We really want to encompass this concept that we have a healthy lifestyle. We want to help people learn about nutrition, what they're putting in their bodies. And so how flexible are you guys with the menu? And they're like, oh my gosh, we've been wanting to learn about healthier foods. Any menus that you guys have, any recipes, like we send them our way. We're going to train up our whole kitchen staff and make it happen.
It's amazing. And we have so many, just so you all know, we have so many good menus, recipes. We have done this countless times for other events and have had farm to table trained chefs create these menus for us. So we can't wait to bring them to you. I always go home like, are you kidding me? Bring me back to these experiences where somebody is cooking this incredible food. But at the same time, I always get good ideas too. I always come out of those experiences with like, I could make this. I could totally do this at home. I can eat like this.
Yeah, and it further allows you to understand like this is doable in my own life. Mm-hmm. Like it's not so unattainable to have healthy food all the time. Like this tastes good. I'm full. I feel fulfilled. This was delicious. I'm looking forward to my next meal, whatever it is. And yeah, that was really, good to hear.
Very exciting.
Them. Yeah.
Besides the food, I mean, rolling hills, amazing activities, stone fireplaces out the wazoo. Like, I'm going to be fireside 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So catch me by the fire.
Little screen porches on the cabins where you guys will be staying. Little, like, quilts for each of the beds. It's so nice. It's so well kept. I can't even emphasize how amazing this place is.
It's going to provide the literal perfect backdrop for all of the amazing facilitators that we're bringing in. We're going to have, I mean, your views while you're cold plunging, you won't even know you're cold.
Nope.
At least what I'm going to tell myself.
Yeah.
Man, but we can't wait. We are so excited. We are coming out of this visit ready to roll with the planning. We're going to be curating a menu this week. We're going to be filling out the schedule, and please follow us on Instagram at Live Recess so you can see some of the video that we took and just get, I mean, it's not even going to do it justice, but you'll get at least a good idea of what you're walking into, and then you'll be dumbfounded even still when you see it in person. It's just gorgeous. Can't beat it.
Yeah. And so leaving there, we are so excited and fulfilled. We're just chatting about things that are on our brain. We want to get to know you guys in a different way and, make it a little bit more casual and catch you guys up on kind of what's important to us right now and what we're excited about. And we hope that this different format is appealing to everyone and just helps you get to know us a little better.
Yeah. So today we want to bring you a little convo that we had about really what's on our hearts right now, which is curating a meaningful experience at the retreat and through these podcasts for you, and how we've felt the pressure to do that, but also how we're combating that pressure to really be able to take the edge off and come into conversations in this space and in our everyday life in a meaningful, intentional way. And we hope that you're able to apply the same principles that we are learning and practicing. And I hope that you'll share any techniques that might have worked for you in the same capacity, in the same realm, to be able to just dive a little bit deeper into your own community and our community here at Recess. So we hope you enjoy this conversation, and we will see you on the other side.
Have a fun recess. Today I was thinking about how recently I don't even think I told you this, Abby. I spoke with Jackson, my boyfriend's dad, who is in news broadcasting. He's public speaker, interview king. Like, he has a podcast, does all these things, and it's been so interesting to explore our network and how they can help us through this endeavor. But we were just at dinner and he's like, so I hear you have a podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, we probably should talk about this. And so he was able to kind of help me understand some techniques and things like that he's explored with his own career. And I've told you this a million times, I'm not the strongest verbal communicator, I would say. So through trying to have this podcast, things like that, I have learned that I want to explore kind of these techniques of how people speak, words that people use to express themselves, things like that, just to be a little bit more informed going into conversations and let it flow organically.
Right.
And his biggest tip for me actually was just to be more aware and notice things about the person that you're speaking with, whether it's clothing, the way they fix their hair, cute little quirks that they have, maybe deeper underlying meanings of what they're talking about that they're not outwardly saying that you can dig deeper with. Just small things that are going to allow the conversation to not only be entertaining for someone else, but also makes who you're talking to way more comfortable because you're so much more engaged when you're just focused completely on them.
Yeah.
Which seems intuitive, but it's really not.
It's not, especially once you hit that record button. And I think that this is a relevant conversation in just conversing and relating with people, whether you're hitting record or not. But something happens internally, for me at least, when I hit that record button where I'm all of a sudden robot mode. All of a sudden, the pressure is on, and I need to think of the most amazing, just enlightening, incredible thing that nobody has ever said in the history of time to just drop a truth bomb on people. And it's like, where does that come from? I'm not that person. I'm not your guru. I can't be that. And if I'm trying to come at this from that perspective, I feel like I'm going to get laughed out of the room. So I think that, to that point, versus attempting to have these jaw-droppingly enlightening moments and one-liners, having the meaningful conversations will lead to that. In every podcast that I've ever listened to, and any interview that I've listened to that's truly meaningful, it's the conversation itself that leads to those things, not the fact that I'm sitting there racking my brain, really not even being aware, to your point, of what that other person is saying.
Yeah, you're almost thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to say. and how can I make this conversation go in the direction that I want it to go rather than organically let it unfold and allowing the other person to probably speak about things that they're more passionate about. It's going to be a more interesting, more exciting, more entertaining conversation when it unravels in a certain way where it's like, oh my gosh, wait, that was so cool. Wait, I want to hear more about this. Can you dig into this? Or wait, actually though, your hair looks so great. And, I don't know, random example, but just being able to just organically react to someone the way that we would in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about, we all know this person who is I'm not going to say dude, the person, we'll just say person. Yeah. I guess I have somebody in mind, but who's like thinking about what they're going to say as you're talking, and you see it in their eyeballs. You're like, I know that you're not actually paying attention. This conversation is a waste of time because all you're thinking about is what you're going to say next to be impressive or to keep the ball rolling, and you pride yourself on being this amazing people person, but there's no actual care, there's no actual love there. And
we all do that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all guilty of wanting to come across in our best way and put the best foot forward.
It's a protective mechanism. We're trying to just appear a certain way to other people, which understandable.
Absolutely. I mean, I've heard it said where it is a literal survival instinct that we have from being such communal people and communal creatures, to where if you weren't part of the community, back in hunting, gathering, caveman days, then you were basically dead. So you better get along with your community. You better not become an outcast. And so I think that's all obviously still in there. And I'm not going to get into the genetic trauma that's passed down through our DNA and God knows what else, but it's definitely in there, and we all suffer from it, hence social anxiety, which I think everybody has. But to bring it back to that awareness and always making sure that you're in that conversation for the right reason, and the right stuff is going to come out of it naturally as a result.
To that point though, like I feel like everyone kind of has their stick. Like maybe Jackson's dad thing is like being complimentary and being able to notice like clothing or small things like that. Whereas for you, like I've known you for a few years, your biggest thing is like you're also very complimentary, but it's in a very different way. Like you kind of speak to the other person's ability, and maybe this is just maybe you just love me. I don't know. Maybe you don't do this with everyone. I kind of like
you. You're all right.
But even in this conversation, like you're already so on top of like articulating kind of what am I trying to say? Almost like the way that someone functions and their system of doing things. Like you're very good at being aware of other people's like patterns or things like that and being able to compliment them on that and bring that back to the conversation. Do you feel like that's something? I mean, that could be totally inaccurate. You can correct me, but
no, I think I'm a process girl for sure in every aspect. Whether it's I like my organization of literal items versus understanding the why behind somebody making a choice or saying something. And I don't know that that's always the healthiest, but I do think that it lends itself to that aspect of trying to understand the underlying meaning behind what they're saying and the next point that might come out of it because of what their motivation is. But to that point, that can also make me a little bit more susceptible to this idea of I'm trying to kind of read them. I'm trying to get to the next step without just being in this moment. And so that's something that I'm truly trying to work on, and that I actually think you're very good at, because despite the fact that I know you say you're not the wordsmith, you're not the word girly, but I don't think you have to be. I think that you are so talented and gifted at relationships. Like,
here she goes. She's doing it.
But you're the person that walks into the room and you're everybody's BFF immediately. I have to kind of calculate how I do that. And for you, it at least seems from the outside so natural that it doesn't matter if you're saying the right words or not. In a lot of ways, if you're not saying the right words, and for those catching up, Bailey is a little bit infamous for like just mixing up a word here and there, and it's always amazing and always funny, and I love it. I love it. But I actually think it makes you more real. Yeah. Nobody wants to be 24/7 around the person who uses 6-syllable words and talks like they're smarter than everybody else in the room. Like, you're relatable, you're the buddy, you're the best friend, and you truly genuinely care about people, and that shines way more than any interview tactic, which I think is probably what Jackson's dad was trying to kind of get at.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you saying all those things. But where do you think this talent of yours came from? Being able to like view other people and understand their sticks and like almost, get an idea of who they are. Like, was that you having a bunch of siblings? Was that relationships you had growing up, your parents? Like, where did that example come from? You
So I
know?
think it's a double-edged sword for me. I think it is a people-pleasing tactic that I learned, not always in a bad way. In many ways, very good. My grandfather was an incredible host. He was the person who hosted the Sunday dinners, and if there was an event going on for a buddy at an organization, then he was there an hour early helping set up. He was there an hour late cleaning up. Even if he had nothing to do with it, even if he was just one of the people that got an invitation, he's somehow going to end up coordinating everything. And I think
cool.
Having that pressure to always leave something better than you found it, what can I do to enhance the situation, has really stuck with me.
Yeah, you definitely do that quite a bit. Not to that extreme. Maybe not to that extreme. But
I don't think it's bad. I don't.
It's not.
There,
No.
you got to control it, obviously, because it can very easily lend itself into becoming a people pleaser and doing it at the expense of what's best for you. But if you're able to hone that in, sure, it can be an incredible gift. And I think that was something that my grandfather and my mom were able to teach me and ingrain in me that's been a benefit. But it doesn't always circle back to an interview. I'm still definitely the person who like mic turns on and I'm like brain dead. So
I don't know if that's true, but yeah, I do admire things about you in that way because I feel like you're really good at, understanding people's needs before they even know them themselves, and like that's like a motherly, nurturing component that you have. Yeah, but it makes you also like a really good mentor because you don't have to tell someone what to do. You almost understand their processes really well, so you're able to articulate it in a way to them that's going to support them in what they're already doing. Like you can see my strengths and say like, you're really good at this. I want this to be the outcome. This is how I think would be the best process. Knowing you, you could get to that point, and you're not going to try and fit them into your own mold for what you like to do.
Yeah.
Which is a good trait.
I appreciate that.
I don't know how that translates into conversations. I'm sure that it does, but just outwardly in general, you do that.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, what it's sparking for me too is this conversation to me has been a meaningful one. And I think for context, we're sitting in a car. If you hear any weird background noises,
yeah, some turn signals.
We've got some exciting stuff coming for you about the retreat, which is why we're in the car. But I give you that context because I think we've put so much pressure on ourselves to create these super meaningful podcasts and super meaningful experiences, and the background has to be perfect to the point that I enlisted my fiance's help to build us a incredible, it's beautiful backdrop, and we aren't using it clearly right now. But I think that we spend a lot of time trying to curate these experiences without just coming to it with an awareness and an intention. And no matter how well you curate it, if you're not bringing that awareness and intention and actually giving a shit, for lack of a better term, then it's not going to be a well curated experience, no matter how many cute throws you put on the couch or panels you put on the wall. That's like, not
where
the
are
stuff
you
that matters.
in all of this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Me and Jackson have been talking a lot about like when you're building a new business, when you have this idea or goal in front of you, it's all about like, what's the strategy? What's the easiest way to go about this? What's the most efficient? How are we going to reach this goal in the smoothest way possible? But a lot of times what happens when you're using strategy or you're trying to curate, like you're saying, or all these things, a lot of what creates successful outcomes are the experimenting and failing and trying again and being yourself and understanding how you as a person fit into this experience, because when you're thinking about strategy and things that other people have done, that's their thing.
Yeah.
And that's what works for them. And so maybe it works, but it only works for them. So it's probably not going to work in the same way for you. So like being open to evolve and experiment and just be us, like dropping the strategy and just like, Yeah, just talking and being girls.
And it's kind of the same mindset as the not thinking about the next thing to say while you're in the moment. It's like, don't think about the next move while you're in the process of this move. Let's focus, let's live in the present and make intentional decisions with what we have right now. And that will lead us to the next step without having to guess. I mean, we can sit there and say, this is what's going to happen in the next step. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to do that. But how many times does it ever actually play out like that?
Never.
And you could say the same thing in a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I can sit here and try to ask the perfect question. Perfect example. I had an interview the other day, went back and listened to it, and I was like, this is not it. Not to anybody's fault, but it was just, I was trying to craft the perfect questions to lead in this direction. And that's just not where it was naturally headed. Yeah. And you could tell by the end of the conversation.
Trying to drive and control.
Yeah. And then it just wasn't it. It was not a good conversation. We're going to re-record. We're still going to bring you the amazing content, but I didn't just let it flow. And it was very evident that I was not in the moment. I was not trying to learn from myself and have this experience where we're all learning together. And I think that's what we really genuinely came here to do.
Yeah. There's definitely a line of like being prepared.
Sure.
And knowledgeable, and also like saying things again outside of that expert model and saying like, I'm a student just as much as everyone else that's listening in on this conversation. So allowing yourself to kind of cultivate something, but also be the student and surrender almost to the experience.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And thinking about this in the context of just everyday life, you were talking a little bit about like Jackson doing it in a business realm, but even just doing it with friends. I know we've both succumbed to this idea of having these like super cute dinner parties, or like I'm the charcuterie girl. Like you are too, I know. We have Bailey and I have built the most Mac Daddy. I don't care. I don't know who you are. I don't care. I do care who you are, but not when it comes to charcuterie, because Bailey's in my charcuterie game is just better. I'm Mac sorry. Daddy. That's what it is. That's all I got to say about it. But
will it cost hundreds of dollars? Absolutely.
Easily.
But that leads into the conversation, I'm sure, about what you're about to say.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but do I need to do that every single time that I want to get together with my girlfriends? Do I like, this is crazy. And it gets so out of hand to the point that Rocco and I will have people over and we're spending hundreds of dollars every single time because it's like, it's got to be perfect. I've got to have the charcuterie. We have to make sure everybody is like,
appetizer, drink, second appetizer, dinner, dessert.
It's like, no one eats this way.
No.
And then they come over and it's amazing and it's incredible, but you know what? We don't get invited to very many people's houses, and I wonder if it's because of that. Like
the expectation.
And I think it is. And I say that like, please, nobody feel really bad for me that nobody's inviting me over, because people will make comments where they're like, oh, we'll invite you over when this is done, or my house just isn't XYZ.
Which kind of goes in the opposite direction. I'm sure a lot of people talk themselves out of doing things because they have the expectation and the standard that they're trying to reach. Like, I'm not doing it until I can reach the standard. And it's like, why can't we just meet somewhere in the middle?
Can we wear yoga pants?
Yeah.
And just
sit on the floor?
Queso from the Tostitos jar. Okay, not really. That's gross, but
it's maybe, I love that. I would do that.
I with some salsa.
Yeah.
I don't care, but it doesn't need to be this $500 thing. And that goes back to half the time I host these events, and by the end of it, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, this didn't fill me up. I wanted to have my girlfriends over so that I could be filled, and I felt good about my, not that that's the whole thing, but I wanted to bond. I wanted to create community, and instead I stressed myself out for a week leading up to it, going to 6 different stores that had every variety of crackers known to mankind.
And then you're like, oh, this is also my opportunity to get the new rug, the new side chair. I need to do all the new paintings on the walls.
I was talking to Rocco the other day because my wedding shower is coming up and his mom's coming to stay with us. And I'm like, I just really want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And he's like, whoa. We have a plan for all of this. Like, what happened to the plan? And I'm like, well,
this sped up the timeline a bit.
Yeah, we're having company. He's like, Abby, my mom has seen the house.
Yeah.
She knows what it looks like. We don't need to have everything done in the next 2 weeks just because somebody's staying over who's already seen it.
Right.
It's fine.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not why she's coming. She is not coming to see the new couch that I got.
she's coming. Yeah, like, again, back to the point. Like, where's the meaning in all of this?
Yep.
Where are we? Where's your authenticity outside of just hosting and doing it for what other people want? What do you truly want deep down?
Right.
Well, you just want to spend time with people, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it's fun and exciting to do like these curated things every once in a while, like, where, and at the depth of it, you know, what can we sacrifice to be able to like still have that meaningful experience?
Mm-hmm.
And the sacrifice doesn't always have to be money or hours and hours and hours of prep.
Right. It can literally, there can be no sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a thing. You can just call up your friend and have them come over.
Exactly.
You can go to the park.
Yeah.
If you don't want to clean your house.
Yeah. And like, oh, gosh, I could go on about this forever, but just being able to understand, like, this week, my 100% looks different than last week or last month when we hung out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like, even the conversation, like a meaningful conversation one week might go 10 times deeper the next week. You can feel so close to that person. And then one week you're like, I'm in my head, I'm doing this, like I'm not really present, and it doesn't feel the same, but you can't be hard on yourself. Like, you're human. It's going to change. You're going to evolve. The depth of something is going to look different one week. What you're an expert on in one week, what you're focused on, what you're excited about, what you're fixated on. It's all changing and evolving constantly.
And I think by being able and comfortable with bringing your authentic self, you create a safe space for others to do the same. So to kind of the same point about people not wanting to host me after I drop $100 on truffle cheese or whatever recent thing I found at Whole Foods, you know, it's kind of the same concept. Like, if you are constantly trying to go into every single conversation to have this deep, meaningful interaction every single time versus I'm here to connect, whatever that looks like.
I don't have a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just meet each other where we're at.
Right. Like, I'm gonna be tired. Y'all, Bailey and I sometimes talk about the reality TV show that we're watching at the given moment. So
love that.
We would be exhausted if this were the type of conversation that we were having every single time. And I think that genuinely, for those who have been in that situation in a relational pattern, like that's where we got very quickly into this podcasting situation where it was like putting all this pressure on us to have super deep, super meaningful conversations to where I was tired before I even had them and I dreaded them. And I'm like, that's not what this is about. And that's not what friendship or relationships are about.
Not at all. No. And organically, like, we're going to unravel things between each other similarly to how someone's going to unravel something for themselves, rather than like speaking to a professional and elaborating on this super deep concept. It's like, how useful is that for everyone all the time?
Yeah.
You know, every once in a while, it's so great to have something to fall back on. And obviously, we're never going to speak on something that we're not experts at. But, you know, like being able to have a balance.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to
say. And just discover together. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to the point of like experts, I am of the persuasion that there's just no such thing. I mean, in a given moment, is there an expert on this one topic right now? Absolutely. Let's say, I'm sure there's somebody out there who has studied
conversation depth.
Yeah. You know, who's a communication studies person and that's all they do. But 20 years from now, everything's going to have changed. How we communicate. I mean, look at 20 years ago. We didn't have emojis all the time for everything. We weren't like text messages were still being charged per text. So it was like, you know, yeah, literally. So I feel like you can sit here and be like, I'm an expert on this, but things are changing every single day. So trying to come into a conversation to be an expert in anything, I think you always have to leave room for the fact that we're always growing and changing and things are always going to shift. So to that end, it's almost cocky and arrogant to try to approach a conversation from this perspective of I'm an expert or I'm trying to drop knowledge or I'm trying to curate this specific experience that I have in my brain when we're all just trying to live, you know? Yeah. And the best way to really curate an amazing experience is to actually have the experience, which you can't do when you're just always focused on that next step, the next statement, the next moment.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel like you can like practice that in real time? You know, like when you're speaking to someone, how can you really remain focused on what's happening in front of you rather than working your brain, you know?
Pause. I'm so bad at it, to be honest with you. And I was sitting there listening to your question, trying to listen to your question and not trying to think of an answer, which is
It's hard.
it's hard because that's your natural instinct. Because I think there's also a level of that is the polite way to have a conversation is to respond. And how do you not think about the next thing when somebody's talking and you're expected to respond? But I think that in our society, we have forgotten how to pause. I think that's why it's so easy for everybody to send a text message or to email. And I say this all the time. I'm like, I'm so much better in text or email. But now that I'm reflecting on that, I think it's because I allow myself time to create
Say
that
what I want to say,
message.
yeah.
Yeah, think about the intent, what I'm truly trying to get across. I can take as much time as I need to process what came to me that led to my response.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in a conversation like this, people don't pause. It's considered awkward to have silence. So I would challenge people, myself included, to let there be a pause. Think
Mm-hmm.
about your response in that moment so you can actually hear what somebody's saying, pause, curate a response.
Yeah. Yeah, you can so much more organically be able to approach the situation by speaking slow and speaking from your heart rather than just letting your brain be in the driver's seat all the time.
Right. And I think, too, this reminds me of when I had taught preschool. I would have these conversations with my students, and it was so funny because they're not listening to what you say, thinking about their response. They're just little in the moment creatures who they just say whatever comes to their mind. And I'm not saying do that because we need to be intentional, but it's a nice little motivating thing to think about is who cares if what you say isn't like the most important, relevant, amazing
So
thing
true. Yeah.
based on what they asked you. Like, just say like what you said was on your heart. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to lead to someplace beautiful. It's going to lead to a meaningful interaction, and it's going to actually curate the experience that the candles, the perfect dinnerware, the most beautiful charcuterie board, the most eloquent statement couldn't even begin to capture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And thinking about like people love a story.
Mhm.
Share something that is relevant about a time that you experienced something similar. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to overshare or just be thinking about the next thing that you want to say and like that one time that you had this experience you can't even wait to share it because they're not done speaking yet. It doesn't have to be that way, but it can be, like you give a little, they give a little.
Mm-hmm.
You share something, they share something, or even like when you're done sharing your story, just be like, is that relatable? Is that something you've been through? Is that just me? And then it almost invites them to also go there.
Yep.
And continue that depth and give them the time to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Speak slowly, all the things that you just said. But
Yeah. Giving that permission to pause, to slow down, to have a chill get together without the pressure.
mm-hmm.
Just take the edge off.
You got this, girl.
That's what we're going to try to do with you all as well. So stay tuned. We've
This
got
is our
some,
attempt.
yeah, hope it's good. Let us know, but only let us know if it's great. Just kidding.
We don't need the negative feedback.
We don't need that in our lives. We hope that this has been a meaningful experience, though, for you. I think it has been for me. It's been a great conversation. I've definitely hit a little bit of a pressure release valve on our conversations and what we're going to be able to bring to the table for you. And I'm really excited about that.
Felt more like recess than class this time.
Ooh, nice touch. With that said, thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Live Recess, at Live Recess on TikTok as well, YouTube, and liverecess.com.